My son dumped me in a nursing home on my 75th birthday. You're dead weight, Dad. Time to face reality, Derek said, his voice colder than the papers he shoved across our kitchen table. The same table where I'd sat with him night after night, helping with homework for over a decade. I didn't argue, didn't beg. I just reached for Margaret's photo on the mantel, the one he was about to pack away like old junk. Your mother would be ashamed of you, I whispered. He actually laughed, a real, cruel laugh. Mum's been gone 3 years, Dad. Stop living in the past. Then he tossed a crumpled $5 bill onto the table. Buy yourself some candy at that place. The ambulance was already idling outside. 7 days later, that $5 bill turned into 4. 2 million. But winning the lottery? That was just the spark. What Derek did next nearly burned us both to the ground. Sunnybrook Nursing Home smelled like cheap disinfectant and broken promises. Derek had done his research, found the cheapest facility within 50 miles. $5,500 a month for what they called basic care. Patricia Webb, the intake coordinator, barely looked up from her clipboard. Mid-40s, eyes glazed with the boredom of someone who processes human discard daily. Shared room. Cafeteria slop. Basic medical checks. No therapy, no activities, no dignity. She didn't mention any of that. My roommate, Frank Castellano, 78, retired municipal judge, had been here 18 months. Unlike most, his mind was razor sharp, and his opinions were sharper. Let me guess, he said, as I unpacked my single suitcase. Son or daughter decided you were too expensive to keep around. Son, I'm guessing. Daughters usually visit more and feel guilty longer. Sons treat it like a business decision. He adjusted his reading glasses. What's his excuse? Says I'm dead weight. Needs to liquidate assets for his future. Frank snorted. Liquidate assets? That's lawyer talk. Your boy-in-law? Harvard Law, class of 2001. Figures. Sentenced plenty of lawyers back in the day. Smart enough to find loopholes. Dumb enough to think they won't get caught. That first night, lying on a mattress thinner than Derek's patience, I pulled out the spiral notebook Margaret gave me for our anniversary. For your important thoughts, she'd said, back when my thoughts mattered to someone. I started writing not about Derek's betrayal. That wound was too raw. Instead, I wrote about her. March 15th, 2021. 3 years ago today. Margaret died while I was at Derek's office, signing papers to co-sign his second mortgage. Missed her last breath because my son needed money more than my wife needed her husband. The irony choked me. Margaret had warned me about his growing selfishness, his casual cruelty toward anyone who couldn't serve his ambitions. You're creating a monster, Harold, she'd said during one of our last talks. Stop paying his way through life. I dismissed her. Mothers worry too much. I thought he was just ambitious, driven. Now, 3 years after her death, I finally saw the truth she'd seen all along. Tuesday, Derek called. His voice was artificially bright, the tone of a man ticking boxes off a list. How's the adjustment going, Dad? Fine. Great. Listen, I drove by the house yesterday. Lawn's a mess. Gutters broken from last month's storm. Got a crew coming Thursday to fix it up, get it ready for market. For market? My home of 48 years, reduced to inventory. Dad, I know it's hard, but we have to be practical. Property taxes alone are $12,000 a year. Insurance, utilities, upkeep, it's bleeding money. Bleeding money. Like I was bleeding dignity in this sterile cell. What about my workshop? Silence. Then, Dad, be realistic. All those tools, that old equipment, it's not worth moving. The estate sale company will handle everything. Everything. 40 years of carefully chosen, lovingly maintained tools. The lathe I used to turn legs for Margaret's dining table. The saw that built Derek's treehouse. Of course, I said. You understand, right? I mean, you won't need that stuff anymore. Not like memories matter when you're warehoused away. Wednesday afternoon brought an unexpected visitor. Not Derek. He was too busy liquidating my life. Miranda came alone, looking wildly out of place in her designer coat amidst Sunnybrook's plastic furniture. Harold, I wanted to check on you myself. That's kind, Miranda. She sat in the flimsy visitor chair, nervously twisting her Louis Vuitton bag. Derek's been so stressed. The house sale, work pressure, financial planning. He's not sleeping. Financial planning, a nice word for spending money that wasn't his yet. I'm sure it's tough. Harold, can I ask you something? She leaned forward, voice dropping. Are you okay with all this? The move, the sale, everything? For a fleeting second, genuine concern, or maybe guilt, flickered in her eyes. What choice do I have, Miranda? She was quiet for a long moment. Derek doesn't know I'm here. He thinks I'm at yoga. Why are you here? Because, she struggled. Because this feels wrong. You raised him, sacrificed for him, and now? Now he's moving on. That's what kids do. Not like this. Not... She gestured at the bleak room. Not abandoning you. Her phone buzzed. Derek, probably wondering why yoga was taking so long. I should go, she said, standing quickly. But Harold, if you need anything at all, call me, not Derek, me. She pressed a business card into my hand. Her financial planning firm. After she left, I studied it. Miranda Richardson Thornfield, CFP. Someone who understood money, investments, legal obligations. Someone who might grasp what was about to happen to Derek's meticulously constructed house of cards. I pulled out my notebook and wrote down every word of our conversation, timestamp included. Frank watched from his bed. Daughter-in-law feeling guilty? Something like that? Smart woman, smarter than your son. Definitely. You thinking what I'm thinking? I looked at Margaret's photo on my nightstand, then at the crumpled $5 bill in my wallet. Margaret always said patience was a virtue, Frank. What else did she say? That someday Derek would learn the difference between the price of everything and the value of nothing. Sounds like a wise woman. The wisest. And she was right about Derek. Outside, storm clouds gathered over the hills. Rain was coming. But in room 237, Harold Thornfield was perfectly calm. The real storm was still 4 days away. Thursday evening, Derek called with news that froze my blood. Dad, we got a problem. Miranda's been asking questions about your finances. Found some old bank statements. Wants to review our approach to your care. I kept my voice steady. What kind of questions? Nosy ones. Talking about fiduciary responsibility, elder care standards, legal obligations, all that touchy-feely stuff. His voice was irritated, laced with something new. Fear. Miranda had kept her word about calling if I needed anything. But instead of calling me, she'd started digging into Derek. Maybe she's just concerned. Concerned. Dad, Miranda's a financial planner. When she gets concerned, it means she thinks someone's breaking laws. She's pulled credit reports, bank records, even looked up Sunnybrook's state inspection ratings. My pulse quickened. What did she find? Nothing. Because there's nothing to find. But she's acting like I'm some criminal for making practical decisions about your care. Practical decisions. His favorite euphemism for selfishness. What exactly is she questioning? Everything. The nursing home choice. The house sale timeline. Even. He paused, and I heard something I'd never heard before. Pure terror. Even asking about your mental competency evaluation. What mental competency evaluation? The one Sunnybrook required for admission. Standard procedure. This was news to me. He'd never mentioned it. What did it show? Perfect cognitive function. Of course you're sharp, Dad. That's not the point. The point is Miranda's making this complicated. Perfect cognitive function. He'd committed a perfectly competent man to a nursing home for purely financial reasons. Miranda, the financial planner, would understand the legal earthquake that represented. Maybe you should listen to her. I am listening. But she doesn't get the big picture. The financial pressures, the market timing, the opportunity costs of keeping that house empty. Opportunity costs. Even disposing of his father needed MBA jargon. What opportunity costs? Dad, I haven't told you this because I didn't want to worry you, but I'm in a bit of a bind. The divorce from Rachel 3 years ago, expensive, ongoing alimony, legal fees, credit damage. My first marriage. I'd paid 30 grand for his divorce attorney, thinking it was a one-time family emergency. How expensive? Silence stretched. Finally, 150,000 annually for 7 more years. My breath caught. Over $1 million total. Derek, why didn't you tell me? Because there was nothing you could do. Your pension barely covers your own expenses. Was covering them, he meant, before the nursing home. As if my abandonment was an act of nature. How are you managing payments that large? Another long pause. Credit lines, business loans, other arrangements. Other arrangements? Something in his tone made my skin crawl. Dad, I don't want to burden you with details. Point is, selling your house isn't just about your care. It's about keeping our family financially stable. Our family. He was using my house sale to pay alimony to his ex-wife. I see. No, you don't see. You can't see because you don't understand modern financial pressures. Rachel's attorney was a shark. Settlement was brutal, and Miranda's parents co-signed our current mortgage. If I default, he was unraveling. The confident Harvard lawyer was gone, replaced by a desperate man drowning in debts I'd never imagined. How much debt are you carrying, Derek? That's not, Dad, I can't. Look, the house sale fixes everything. 890 grand clears the worst of it. Gives us breathing room. Sets up a sustainable budget for your care. $890,000. My life's work, reduced to Derek's debt relief fund. And if the house doesn't sell quickly, the silence was answer enough. Derek, are you gambling? What? No. God. No, Dad. I'm a lawyer, not some degenerate. Are you? I play poker sometimes. Business networking, stress relief, nothing serious. How much? Dad, this is insulting. I don't have a gambling problem. I have a cash flow problem. Temporary, manageable, easily solved by liquidating underperforming assets. Underperforming assets. I'd become a line item on his balance sheet. Miranda knows about the gambling. There's nothing to know. And if she keeps digging, she'll make everything worse. Some things are better left private. Private from your wife. Private from everyone. His composure shattered. Dad, I need you to talk to her. Tell her you're happy with the arrangements, that you trust my judgment. Can you do that for me? Tell Miranda I was happy being abandoned so he could pay gambling debts and alimony. Tell her I trusted the judgment of a man confessing to financial desperation I'd never suspected. Of course, Derek. Whatever you need. Thank you. God, thank you. You don't know how much pressure I'm under. After he hung up, I sat in the darkening room. Frank pretended to sleep, but I knew he'd heard everything. Your boy's in deeper than you thought, he said quietly. Much deeper. Gambling debts, among other things. I pulled out my notebook and began writing. Derek's admission of alimony, gambling, desperation. The competency evaluation I never knew about. Miranda's investigation. It means, I said slowly, Derek didn't abandon me for greed. He abandoned me for survival. Does that make it better or worse? I looked at Margaret's photo, then at the $5 bill Derek threw at me like charity. It makes it different, Frank. Much more complicated. You still planning to buy that lottery ticket tomorrow? More than ever, but not for the reasons I thought. Outside, lightning flickered. But this time, I wasn't calm. This time, I was angry. Not just at Derek's betrayal, but at the desperation that drove him to it. Desperation he'd hidden, debts he'd piled up, choices he'd made without ever asking for help. Margaret was right. I'd created a monster, but not the monster I'd thought. I'd created a son too proud to admit failure and too desperate to avoid it. Friday morning, I couldn't stop thinking about Derek's confession. 150 grand a year in alimony. gambling debts he called stress relief. A desperate man making desperate choices with his father's life. Frank watched me pace. "You're wearing a hole in that linoleum, Harold." "Derek's drowning, Frank. Has been for years. And he decided to use me as a life preserver." I sat heavily. Margaret tried to warn me. 3 years ago, she said Derek was becoming someone we wouldn't recognize. I thought she was being dramatic. What did she say exactly? I pulled out my notebook, flipped to entries from her final months. She said Derek had started treating family like business transactions. Everything had to have a return on investment. Smart woman. She begged me to stop enabling him, said I was teaching him that other people existed to solve his problems. I touched her photo. The day she died, I was at Derek's office co-signing his second mortgage. She died alone because our son needed money more than she needed her husband. Frank was quiet. That's a heavy burden. I've carried it for 3 years, wondering if she'd still be alive if I'd been there, if I'd caught the signs earlier. "Harold, you can't." "But I can do something about Derek." I stood up, decision crystallizing. Margaret was right about enabling him. I've been his safety net so long he never learned to swim. "So, what's the plan?" I pulled out the crumpled $5 bill. Margaret used to say, "The universe has a sense of irony. Let's test that theory." At 2 p.m., Derek arrived for his first visit since dumping me. He looked haggard, desperate, like a man who hadn't slept in days. "Dad, thank God you agreed to see me. Of course, I talked to Miranda last night. She's threatening to leave if I don't come clean about our finances." He slumped. "She found the credit card statements." "Which statements?" "The poker games, Atlantic City, online sites, some private games with other lawyers." His voice cracked. "It's not as bad as it looks, but Miranda doesn't understand poker is skill-based. I'm actually up over the long term." "How much, Derek?" "The gambling? Maybe 40, 50 grand total. Nothing I can't recover." He was lying badly. The real number was much higher. "And the other debts? Business loans? Credit lines? The Rachel situation?" He ran his hands through his hair. "I need that house sale. If it doesn't close by month end, I'll lose everything. The practice, the house, Miranda, the kids." For the first time, I felt sorry for him. Not enough to forgive, but enough to understand. "Son, why didn't you come to me earlier? Before it got this bad?" "Because I'm supposed to be successful. I'm supposed to have it all figured out. I'm a Harvard lawyer with a corner office and a 6-figure income. I shouldn't need my 75-year-old father to bail me out again." "Again?" The word hung between us like an indictment. "How many times have I bailed you out, Derek?" He looked away. This is different." "How many times?" "College. The first house, the startup, the divorce, the second house." His voice got smaller with each item, maybe half a dozen. Half a dozen times I'd taught Derek that failure had no consequences. That Daddy would always fix it. "And now you've run out of failures I can afford to fix." "Dad, please. I know I've made mistakes, but I can turn this around. The house sale gives me a clean slate. And then you'll make different choices, better decisions." He nodded eagerly. "Exactly. This is rock bottom. I've learned my lesson." I stood and walked to the window. Below, his BMW sat in the lot a 90 grand lease while drowning in debt. "Derek, do you remember what Margaret said the last time I bailed you out?" "Mom said a lot of things." She said, "Someday your father won't be there to catch you. What will you do then?" Derek was quiet. "Well, son, someday is today." I pulled out the $5 bill and held it up. "You know what I'm going to do with this?" "Dad, please don't lecture me about money. $5 isn't going to... I'm going to buy a lottery ticket." He actually laughed. "A lottery ticket? Dad, the odds are 24 million to 1. "I know, but Margaret always said hope was worth more than odds." "Mom never played the lottery." "No, but she believed in consequences and irony and the idea that sometimes The universe gives you exactly what you need, when you need it most. What does that even mean? I folded the bill carefully. It means, son, that in about 6 hours, we're going to find out if 45 years of enabling you was the biggest mistake of my life. I don't understand. You will. After Derek left, Frank watched me prepare for my walk to the gas station. You really think you're going to win? Frank, I think the universe has been setting up this moment for 3 years. Ever since Margaret died, trying to warn me about Derek. And if you don't win, then I die, knowing I finally stopped enabling my son's self-destruction. And if you do win? I looked at Margaret's photo one last time. Then Derek learns what Margaret tried to teach us both. That love without boundaries isn't love at all. I walked out of Sunnybrook into the evening air, that $5 bill warm in my pocket. Margaret's voice seemed to whisper on the wind. It's time, Harold. It's finally time. Friday night, 11:47 p.m. I sat alone in Sunnybrook's common room, watching the Mega Millions drawing on the ancient TV. Most residents were asleep, but Frank had wheeled down to keep me company. You really picked random numbers? He asked. I showed him the ticket. Margaret's birthday, the day Derek was born. Our wedding anniversary, the day she died. I paused. And Derek's age when he stopped visiting her in the hospital. 42. The numbers rolled out slowly. 07, 15, 23, 31, 42, and the mega ball, 4. Frank stared at the screen, then at my ticket, then back at the screen. Harold, I know you just won 2 million. I know. We sat in stunned silence. The universe, it seemed, had a wicked sense of humor. Saturday morning, I called the lottery office. The claims agent, Jennifer Martinez, sounded bored. Congratulations, Mr. Thornfield. After taxes, you're looking at approximately 6 million. Standard 30-day verification period. Then we can arrange. I need this kept completely confidential. No press, no publicity. Of course, many winners prefer privacy. And I need to claim it immediately. Monday, if possible. Certainly. May I ask about the urgency? I looked around Sunnybrook's sterile hallway. Let's just say my living situation is about to change dramatically. That weekend was the longest of my life. Derek called twice, sounding more desperate each time. Dad, the house has 3 offers, but the highest wants a 2-week closing. I need you to sign some papers. Of course, Derek. And Miranda. She's staying at her mother's. Says she needs space to think about our marriage. I'm sorry to hear that. It's temporary. Once the financial pressure eases, everything will go back to normal. Normal. Derek still believed money could glue back what he'd shattered. Sunday evening brought an unexpected call. Miranda, not Derek. Harold, I hope I'm not disturbing you. Not at all. I wanted you to know I've been reviewing Derek's finances. All of them. Her voice was tight with controlled anger. Harold, did you know he owes $400,000 in gambling debts? $400,000? 8 times what he'd admitted. That's significant. There are people, Harold. Dangerous people. Derek took loans from them when the banks cut him off. My blood ran cold. What kind of people? The kind who don't accept bankruptcy as an excuse. The kind who... Her voice broke. Harold, I'm scared. For the children. For myself. Derek's been lying about everything. Miranda, are you safe? For now. But they've been calling the house, showing up at his office. They want their money by month end. Or they start taking other forms of payment. Other forms of payment. I felt sick. How much does Derek owe in total? Between gambling, alimony, business loans, credit cards? Almost $800,000. $800,000. The exact amount Derek expected from selling my house. Miranda, I need to ask you something. Be completely honest. If Derek gets that house money, will it really solve his problems? A long pause. Harold, Derek has a gambling addiction. Giving him $800,000 is like giving a bottle to an alcoholic. It might solve today's crisis, but it won't fix the underlying problem. What will? Consequences? Real ones. The kind you can't bail him out of. After she hung up, I sat in the darkness of room 237, thinking about Margaret's last words to me. Not her final breath. I'd missed that. But her last coherent conversation, 3 days before she died. Harold, promise me something. Anything. When Derek falls, and he will fall, don't catch him. Let him hit the ground. It's the only way he'll learn to stand up. I'd promised her, but I hadn't understood. Now I did. Monday morning, I took a taxi to the lottery office. By noon, I was officially worth $6 million. By 1 p.m., I'd hired Thomas Whitmore. By 3 p.m., Derek's world was about to implode. But this time, when he fell, I wouldn't be there to catch him. Margaret was right about consequences, irony, and the universe's perfect timing. Derek thought he was selling my house to save his life. Instead, he was about to lose everything he'd never deserved to have in the first place. The education begins now, son. Thomas Whitmore's office felt like another planet. 43rd floor, floor-to-ceiling windows. Furniture costing more than Derek's annual salary. But what impressed me most was Whitmore himself. Silver-haired, sharp-eyed, radiating the quiet confidence of a man who'd seen every family disaster imaginable. "Mr. Thornfield," he said, studying my lottery documents, "I've practiced family law for 30 years. This is either the most elaborate revenge plot I've ever seen, or the universe's idea of poetic justice. Maybe both." He leaned back. "Before we proceed, I need to understand your goals. Punish your son, protect your assets, teach him a lesson? All three, but mostly the lesson." Whitmore nodded to his Team 3 attorneys with thick folders already open. "My colleague Sarah Chen reviewed your documentation. The pattern of financial exploitation is extensive." Sarah, a sharp-eyed contracts attorney, opened her laptop. "Mr. Thornfield, your son has used you as a personal bank for 45 years. College, houses, business ventures, legal fees, total documented withdrawals exceed $600,000, most never repaid," added Robert Kim, the estate planning specialist. "But here's the interesting part," Whitmore continued. "Your son just committed you to a nursing facility while you're completely mentally competent. That could constitute elder abuse under state law." "Could?" "Would, if we pursued criminal charges. But I suspect you have something more educational in mind." I pulled out my notebook. "Derek owes dangerous people 400 grand. His wife is threatening divorce. He's counting on my house sale to save his life. And you want to make sure that doesn't happen. I want to make sure Derek learns what Margaret tried to teach him, that actions have consequences." For the next 2 hours, we built a strategy that was both legal and devastating. First, a new will. Derek would inherit exactly $5. The rest would establish the Margaret Thornfield Foundation for Elder Abuse Prevention. Second, immediate purchase of Derek's office building. Cash offer, no contingencies. Third, and most importantly, complete documentation of Derek's gambling addiction and dangerous debts. "The beauty," Whitmore explained, "is that it forces Derek to confront his problems without your money as a safety net." "What about the people he owes?" Sarah looked up. "If Derek defaults on his gambling debts, creditors will likely pursue bankruptcy. That actually protects him from physical harm while forcing financial restructuring. Meaning Derek would lose everything: his practice, his house, his lifestyle, but he'd live through it and hopefully learn." Robert leaned forward. "Mr. Thornfield, one complication. Your son could challenge the will, claim undue influence or mental incompetence, especially with the timing lottery win immediately followed by disinheritance. A good lawyer could argue emotional distress." I smiled grimly. "Then we need to make sure Derek isn't in a position to hire good lawyers." "What do you mean?" "I mean, we're going to buy his building, evict his practice, and force him into bankruptcy before he realizes what's happening." Whitmore's eyebrows rose. "That's aggressive." "Derek's creditors want their money by month end. If he can't deliver, they'll do far worse than eviction. You're protecting him by destroying him. I'm saving his life by teaching him consequences. We refined the timeline. Purchased the building immediately. Served Derek with eviction papers Wednesday. File the new will Thursday. By Friday, Derek would face a choice: bankruptcy protection or dangerous creditors. One more thing, I said as we finished. I want Derek to know this is coming from me, not anonymous investors, from his father. That's unusual. Most prefer plausible deniability. Derek needs to understand his actions have personal consequences, that the father he abandoned is the same father who could have saved him. Sarah closed her laptop. Mr. Thornfield, this plan will likely destroy your relationship with your son permanently. The relationship was destroyed when he abandoned me. This is about preventing him from destroying himself. And if he doesn't learn, if he just becomes more bitter? I looked out the window. Somewhere down there, Derek was probably planning how to spend money from selling my house money that would fuel his addiction, not cure it. Then at least I'll know I stopped enabling his destruction. As I prepared to leave, Whitmore shook my hand. Mr. Thornfield, I've seen a lot of family disputes. This is either going to save your son's life or end your relationship forever. Those might be the same thing. What do you mean? Margaret used to say that sometimes the greatest act of love is letting someone fall, even if they hate you for it. And you're prepared for that hatred? I thought about Derek's children, the grandchildren who barely knew me, about Miranda fighting to save her marriage to an addict, about Margaret who died trying to warn me about this moment. I'm prepared for Derek to hate me if it means he finally learns to save himself. Whitmore nodded slowly. Then let's begin. Tuesday morning, Derek called, practically vibrating with manic energy. Dad, incredible news. The house sold. $890,000. Cash offer. Closing Friday. Can you believe it? I could hear Miranda in the background, her voice tight with stress. They were arguing. That's wonderful, Derek. Even better. I just got word the office building owner accepted my offer. $3.2 million. With the house money and some creative financing, I can make it work. Creative financing. Borrowing against money he didn't have yet to buy a building I now owned. That sounds ambitious. Miranda's voice rose sharply. Derek, we can't afford... Hold on, Dad. I heard him cover the phone. His muffled voice carried anyway. Miranda, I told you, stop second-guessing every decision. When he came back, his tone was forced cheerful. Sorry about that. Wedding planning stress. You know how it is. Wedding planning. They'd been married 15 years. Is everything all right between you two? Everything's perfect. Miranda's just emotional lately. Women get like that when big changes are happening. Derek was lying about the building, about Miranda, probably about everything. Derek, can I ask you something? Sure. Are you gambling again? Dead silence. Then, Dad, where is this coming from? Miranda mentioned. Miranda doesn't know what she's talking about. I play poker sometimes. Business networking, stress relief. It's completely under control. How much are you down? I'm not down. I'm actually up over the long term. Poker is skill-based, Dad. It's not like slots. His voice had that defensive edge addicts get. The same tone he'd used as a teenager when caught lying about grades. So, you're not in debt to anyone dangerous? Another pause. Longer. Dad, who have you been talking to? I'm just concerned. Look, I may have borrowed some money from private sources. Non-traditional lending, but it's all manageable once the real estate transactions close. Non-traditional lending. Loan sharks. How much, Derek? It's complicated. Different creditors, different terms, but the house sale covers everything with room to spare. Everything? Dad, I really can't discuss specifics over the phone. Let's just say Friday solves all our problems. Our problems. He'd made his gambling addiction my responsibility. That afternoon, Derek showed up at Sunnybrook unannounced. He looked terrible hollowed, jittery, like he hadn't slept in days. His expensive suit hung loose. "Dad, we need to talk." "About what?" He glanced around the common room, then wheeled me to a corner. "Miranda filed for separation yesterday." "I'm sorry to hear that." "She took the kids to her mother's. Says she won't come back until I get help for my problems." His hands shook. "She doesn't understand the pressure I'm under." "What kind of pressure?" "The kind you can't just quit, Dad. The kind that follows you home, calls your office, shows up at your kid's school." My blood went cold. "Derek, are the children safe?" "For now. But these people, they're not patient. They want their money Friday. Or they start collecting in other ways." "How much do you really owe them?" He looked around, then leaned closer. 400 grand, plus interest, 20% monthly. 20% monthly. Derek was paying loan sharks nearly 100 grand a month in interest alone. "Son, how did it get this bad?" "It started small. A few thousand to cover Rachel's payments when cash flow was tight. But then I had a bad run. Tried to chase my losses." His voice cracked. "Dad, I'm not a degenerate gambler. I'm a calculated risk taker who hit a statistical anomaly." Statistical anomaly? He was still lying to himself. "What happens if you can't pay Friday?" "I can pay. The house sale clears everything, gives me a fresh start. I've already learned my lesson." "Have you?" "Absolutely. This was rock bottom. Never again." He'd said those exact words after I'd bailed him out of his startup debts, his divorce costs, his previous temporary crisis. "Derek, what if the house sale falls through?" "It won't. Cash buyer already approved. Closing Friday. Nothing can go wrong." Famous last words. That evening, Miranda called me directly. "Harold, I'm sorry to bother you, but I need you to know what's happening." "I'm listening." "Two men came to our house yesterday. They knew the children's names, their school schedule, even what after-school activities they attend." "What did they want?" "They wanted Derek to understand how serious they are about Friday's deadline. They were polite but clear about what happens if he doesn't pay." "Are you safe?" "My mother's house." "Yes, but Harold, Derek doesn't seem to understand that 800 grand won't fix this. He'll just get deeper in debt." "What do you mean?" "I've been married to him for 15 years. I know how his mind works. He thinks the house money is seed capital for bigger bets, not debt relief. He's already talking about investments, opportunities, getting back what I lost." Miranda was right. Derek hadn't learned anything. He was still thinking like an addict. "Miranda, what would it take to save your marriage?" Derek would have to admit he has a problem, enter treatment, and submit to financial supervision. But he won't do any of that as long as he thinks money can solve everything. After she hung up, I sat in room 237, watching Derek's BMW circle the parking lot. He'd been sitting out there for 20 minutes, probably working up courage to ask me for something. Finally, he came back inside. "Dad, I need a favor. A small favor." "What kind of favor?" "If anyone calls here asking about me, about my finances, about Friday's closing, can you just tell them you don't know anything?" He was asking me to lie to his creditors to protect him one more time. "Of course, son. Whatever you need." He sagged with relief. "Thank you. God, thank you." After Derek left, Frank rolled over. "Your boy still doesn't get it, does he?" "No. He still thinks money fixes everything." "You going to tell him about the lottery?" I looked at the building purchase documents Whitmore had sent, signed, sealed, delivered. Derek's office building now belonged to me. Tomorrow, Frank? Tomorrow, Derek learns that some problems can't be solved with other people's money. Think he'll finally understand? I think Derek's about to get the education Margaret always wanted him to have. Outside, storm clouds gathered. But this time, I wasn't the one in danger of drowning. This time, Derek would have to learn to swim on his own. Wednesday morning, Derek arrived at Sunnybrook in a state of barely controlled panic. "Dad, we have a problem." "A big problem." "What's wrong?" "Someone bought the building. The building I was supposed to buy. Cash offer? Closed yesterday? No warning?" He paced our small room like a caged animal. My realtor says it was some private investor, but nobody knows who. Frank watched, pretending to read. That's unfortunate, I said carefully. Unfortunate, Dad? I need that building. The rental income was going to cover my monthly payments. Without it... He stopped pacing, ran his hands through his hair. Without it, the house money only buys me 6 months. 6 months before he'd be right back where he started. Maybe you can find another investment property. There's no time. These people want their money Friday. They're not interested in investment timelines. His voice cracked. Dad, they know where the kids go to school. My blood ran cold, but I kept my face neutral. The children are safe with Miranda's mother for now, but if I can't pay... He slumped into the plastic chair. I need options. Alternative solutions. Alternative solutions. He was still thinking like an addict, looking for another angle instead of facing reality. Well, the house sale is $890,000. After paying off the most dangerous debts, you'd have maybe $200,000 left. His eyes took on that fevered quality I'd seen before. $200,000 is enough for a serious poker game. High stakes, serious players. If I could double it, triple it... Derek, stop. No, hear me out. I know it sounds risky, but I'm a skilled player. The only reason I'm in this mess is bad luck, statistical variance, but with proper bankroll management... Derek, my voice cut through his manic planning. Listen to yourself. What do you mean? You're talking about gambling with money meant to save your life. His face flushed. It's not gambling when you have a skill advantage. It's calculated risk management. Calculated risk management. He was so deep in addiction, he couldn't even recognize his own delusions. Son, sit down. We need to talk. Something in my tone made him stop pacing. He sat, leg bouncing. Derek, I'm going to tell you something. Listen without interrupting. Okay. 3 days ago, I won the lottery. He blinked. What? The $5 bill you gave me for candy? I bought a Mega Millions ticket. I won 2 million. The color drained from his face. He opened his mouth, closed it, then opened it again. You won the lottery. 6 million after taxes. Then he stared at me for a full minute. Then his expression changed. Panic vanished, replaced by relief, then calculation, then something that looked like greed. Dad, that's incredible. This changes everything. He stood up, energy surging. We can pay off all my debts, keep the house, maybe even buy a second property. No. What? No, Derek, we're not paying off your debts. Derek looked confused. I'm your son, your only child. Family helps family. Family helps family? I repeated slowly. Interesting phrase coming from the man who abandoned me in a nursing home to steal my house. His face went red. I didn't steal anything. I was being practical about... You were liquidating assets to fund your gambling addiction. It's not an addiction. It's a temporary cash flow problem that got out of hand. I pulled out my spiral notebook. Derek, over the past week, I've documented every conversation we've had, every lie, every manipulation. Lies? Dad, what are you talking about? You told me you owed $50,000 in gambling debts. Miranda says it's 400. His mouth opened and closed. Miranda doesn't understand the complexity. You told me the nursing home was about my care. It was about freeing up money for your creditors. It was both. You told me the house sale was about practical asset management. It was about saving your life from loan sharks. Derek stood up abruptly. Dad, you don't understand the pressure I'm under. I understand perfectly. You're a gambling addict who's been using me as a personal bank for 45 years. That's not fair. You gave me that money willingly. Because I thought I was helping my son build a life. I didn't know I was enabling an addiction. Derek began pacing again. Okay, fine. Maybe I have a problem, but we can deal with that later. Right now, I need that lottery money to stay alive. No. Dad, please. These people will kill me. No, they won't. They'll force you into bankruptcy, which will actually protect you from physical harm while eliminating your debts. He stared at me. You want me to go bankrupt? I want you to face consequences for your choices. By letting me lose everything? By stopping my enabling of your self-destruction? His voice rose to near shouting. I'm your son. You're supposed to protect me. I did protect you for 45 years, and look what it created. It created a successful lawyer with a Harvard degree. It created an addict who abandons his father to fund his gambling. Derek fell silent. Outside, I could see Thomas Whitmore's building, the building I now owned. Soon, Derek would learn that too. Dad, he said quietly, if you don't help me, I'll lose everything. My practice, my house, my family. Yes. And you're okay with that? I'm okay with you learning what Margaret tried to teach us both, that actions have consequences. His eyes filled with tears. Mom would want you to help me. No, Derek. Mom begged me to stop enabling you. Her last words to me were about letting you fall so you could learn to stand up. That's not, she didn't mean, she meant exactly this. The moment when love requires saying no instead of yes. Derek slumped back into his chair. So what happens now? Now you make a choice. Bankruptcy protection and addiction treatment. Or keep running from consequences until they catch you. And the lottery money goes to charity? The Margaret Thornfield Foundation? All of it, except for $5. Your inheritance. The same amount you gave me for candy. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, Dad, I hate you right now. I know. You're destroying my life. No, Derek. I'm stopping my participation in your self-destruction. What if I can't? What if I'm not strong enough to get through this alone? For the first time, he sounded like the scared little boy he used to be. Then you'll learn to be strong. The way Margaret always believed you could be. He stood up slowly. I need to think about this. You have until Friday. After that, your creditors make the choice for you. As he reached the door, he turned back. Dad, do you still love me? The question broke my heart. Derek, I love you enough to let you fall, even if you hate me for it. After he left, Frank rolled closer. Think he'll choose bankruptcy? I think Derek's about to discover who he really is when he can't run to Daddy for money. And if he chooses badly? I looked at Margaret's photo. Then at least I'll know I finally stopped enabling his destruction. Outside, Derek sat in his BMW for 20 minutes before driving away. Tonight, for the first time in 45 years, Derek Thornfield was completely on his own. Thursday morning brought Derek's discovery of the building purchase in the most brutal way possible. He called me at 7:30 a.m. His voice barely controlled hysteria. Dad, they evicted me. Security guards. Boxes on the sidewalk. Locks changed. My entire practice just gone. What happened? The new building owner. Turns out it's you. You bought my building. I said nothing. Dad? Dad? Did you hear me? You destroyed my practice. Derek, calm down. Calm down. I just lost my law firm, my office, my files, everything. My clients are calling, asking where their attorney went. I'm standing on the sidewalk next to 17 boxes of legal documents like some kind of... His voice cracked. Like some kind of homeless person. Through the phone, I could hear traffic, car horns, the chaos of downtown. Where are you now? Loading my car. A BMW filled with banker's boxes. Do you know how humiliating this is? Other lawyers walking by, staring, probably laughing. Derek, this doesn't have to be permanent. You can rent space. With what money? He screamed. The house closing got delayed. Something about title issues. My realtor says maybe next week, maybe longer. The house closing, the lifeline he was counting on, had hit a snag. The universe's timing was impeccable. Son, take a breath. Don't son me. You did this. You knew about my problems and you sabotaged me anyway. He was right. I had sabotaged him. Deliberately. Systematically. Completely. Derek, I want you to listen. No, you listen. I called Miranda this morning, told her about your lottery win, begged her to come home. You know what she said? What? She said, good. Maybe now Derek will hit rock bottom and get help. My own wife is celebrating my destruction. Miranda was smarter than I'd given her credit for. She understood what Derek couldn't see yet. Maybe she's right. She's not right. Nobody's right. I'm a good person who hit a bad streak. He was shouting now, probably drawing stares. A successful lawyer having a public breakdown. Derek, where are you going to go? I don't know. I can't afford hotel rooms much longer. The house has a for sale sign, so I can't go there. Miranda won't take my calls. And you? His voice turned bitter. You're sitting on millions while your son becomes homeless. You're not homeless. You have options. What options? Bankruptcy? Admitting I'm an addict? Losing everything I've worked for? Yes. The single word hung between us like a judgment. You really want me to lose everything. I want you to stop running from consequences. He was quiet for a moment. Then, Dad, I need to tell you something. I'm listening. Those people I owe money to, they're not just loan sharks. They're connected, organized, and they're not going to accept bankruptcy as payment. My blood went cold. What does that mean? It means they want their money, or they want equivalent value, property, assets, or... His voice dropped to a whisper. Or they collect from family members. Derek, are you threatening me? I'm not threatening anyone. I'm trying to explain that some debts can't be discharged in court. Then you should have thought about that before borrowing from criminals. I was desperate. I had no choice. You had choices, Derek. You chose gambling over family. You chose lies over honesty. You chose my house over my dignity, and now you're choosing revenge over love. The accusation hit harder than I'd expected. Derek, this isn't revenge. It's exactly revenge. You're punishing me for putting you in that nursing home. No, Derek, I'm trying to save your life by ending my participation in your suicide. He was crying now, actual broken sobbing. Dad, please, I'll do anything. Treatment, therapy, whatever you want. Just don't let me die for this. For the first time, he sounded genuinely terrified, not just angry. Derek, are you in immediate physical danger? I don't know. They're supposed to call today about Friday's deadline. Friday? Tomorrow. Son, listen carefully. You need to file for bankruptcy protection immediately. Today. But that won't stop these people. It will start the legal process. And Derek, call the FBI. The FBI? These aren't legitimate creditors. They're criminals. Let law enforcement handle them. I can't. If I cooperate with federal agents, I'm dead. If you don't cooperate, you're dead anyway. He sobbed. Dad, I'm so scared. I know. Will you? Will you visit me if I go to bankruptcy court? If I check into treatment? If I lose everything? Will you still be my father? The question shattered me. Derek, I'll always be your father. That's why I had to stop being your enabler. I think I'm ready to get help. Then let's start making calls. For the first time in 45 years, Derek was asking for help instead of demanding money. Margaret would have been proud. 6 months later, Derek sat across from me in the visitors' lounge at Riverside Recovery Center. He looked different, thinner, grayer, but somehow more solid, more real. How are you feeling? I asked. Honest answer? Terrified, grateful, ashamed, all at the same time. He managed a weak smile. Group therapy teaches you to acknowledge multiple emotions. The FBI investigation wrapped up last month. Turns out my creditors were part of a larger racketeering operation. 6 arrests, including the guys who threatened my family. He shook his head. I was borrowing money from actual mobsters. Dad, actual criminals. Are you safe now? Safer than I was 6 months ago. The bankruptcy discharged most of my legitimate debts. The criminal ones, well, hard to collect from federal prison. He looked out the window at the recovery center's garden. 3 months of inpatient treatment had given him something I hadn't seen in years: clarity. Dad, I need to say something, and I need you to let me finish. I'm listening. I was wrong about everything. The nursing home, the house, treating you like an ATM for 45 years. His voice was steady but quiet. Mom tried to warn you about me, didn't she? She was worried about both of us. No, she was worried about what I was becoming and what you were enabling me to become. He met my eyes. I killed her, didn't I? Kept you away when she needed you most. The guilt I'd carried for 3 years threatened to overwhelm me. Derek, let me say this, please. He took a deep breath. Mom died alone because I couldn't stop being selfish long enough to let her husband stay with her. That's on me, not you. We both made choices that day. No, Dad, you made the choice you'd been making for 45 years, putting my needs ahead of everything else. I made the choice to let you. He pulled out a worn piece of paper. This is my amends letter, step 9 of the program. I wanted to read it to you. Derek, you don't have to. Dad, I owe you $678,000. Not in money. I know that's gone. In respect, in gratitude, in acknowledgement of what you sacrificed for me. He read for 10 minutes. Every debt, every sacrifice. Every time I'd chosen his future over my present. When he finished, we both sat in silence. What happens now? I asked. Now I rebuild from nothing, the way I should have learned to do 40 years ago. And Miranda, the children? Family therapy twice a week. Miranda's cautious but hopeful. The kids are confused but adapting. He folded the letter carefully. We're living in a 2-bedroom apartment in Miranda's mother's neighborhood. It's humbling. Humbling can be good. It's necessary. He stood to leave. Visiting hours were ending. Dad, about the lottery money? It's doing good work. The foundation has helped over 200 families. I'm glad. Mom would approve. As Derek walked away, I thought about Margaret's last coherent words to me. Sometimes the greatest act of love is letting someone fall. She'd been right. Derek had fallen harder and further than either of us imagined. But for the first time in 45 years, he was standing on his own. That evening, Frank and I sat in our new shared apartment. I'd moved out of Sunnybrook once the lottery money gave me options. Think he'll make it? Frank asked. I think he's finally learning the difference between failing and falling. What's the difference? I looked at Margaret's photo on my new mantle. Failing is temporary. Falling teaches you how to stand up. And you? Any regrets about the tough love approach? I thought about Derek's breakdown, his terror, the months of uncertainty about whether he'd survive his own consequences. Only one regret, Frank. What's that? That it took me 75 years to learn that loving someone means trusting them to handle their own consequences, even when those consequences might destroy them, especially then, because the alternative is destroying them slowly with kindness. Outside our window, spring was arriving. New growth, fresh starts, second chances earned through hard work instead of inherited through enabling. Derek was learning to stand on his own. Miranda was learning to trust again. Their children were learning that actions have consequences. And I was learning that sometimes the most loving thing a father can do is step back and let his son discover his own strength. Margaret would have been proud of us both.